Hello guys and welcome to this video of the week number 3. We are going to start a new period right now, but of course it is important that we discuss or remember certain things of the former periods. This is going to be done specifically for you to check what is going to be the progression, and hopefully maybe a couple of you have already noticed something, and it's how some of these periods or many of these periods have an opposed trend, an opposed tendency to the former period, right? So hopefully eventually you are going to notice that we are going to experience the idea of a period being the response to other period, right? So if we take a look at Anglo-Saxon, it was a period of violence, chaos, disorganization, a mess, right? Mostly. They valued, of course, legacy and honor and strength and all these different things. Nevertheless, it was a little bit like that, right? Now we have a reaction that is the Middle English period, right? In which there is also a certain amount of violence and war. Nevertheless, we go from complete chaos to organization, right? So you see, there's like a response over there, a response to the previous period. And we see that in Middle English we have this very religious, very God-centered attitude that permeated, let's say, everything. No, so from the content of literature to the use of the Bible to the use of all these different things, right? That we had over there in that period. Well, we are going to the next period, the one that we're going to cover today, that is that of the English Renaissance. As you can see, it goes more or less from 1500 to 1660. Yeah, this is going to be on the slide number 31. Yeah, slide 31. And well, let's start with the name itself, right? Renaissance. This is actually to be reborn, right? We're talking about rebirth. And it is interesting that we have this name because we will see something that it's going to be recurrent, that it will happen again and again throughout the different periods, and not only in literature, it's in different, let's say, moments or trends or topics or fields, right? And it's something that I used to say, and it's the power of nostalgia. Nostalgia is a really powerful thing, a really powerful tool. And what can we understand for nostalgia? Well, it is that sort of desire, profound desire to return to the past, to go back in time to what we consider are better times. Yes. And well, actually, right now, in the last decade or so, we can say, we have been living a really powerful wave of nostalgia in the world. Yes, and you will see how there are many things that used to be great in the past and that have been like retaken, or they have been reinstated. Yes, in cinema, in books, in movies, in a lot of different things. Right? We have all these movies that were not done for a few years that it started being rebooted or just started being remade. Yes, so it's in thousands of different, let's say, remakes of movies of the past, of the 80s, of the 90s that were just reinstated. Yes, we have all these different musicians or bands that got together and returned. Yes, we have seen these different franchises that obtain different movies or TV series or whatever, after a long time of absence. Same happened in music, yes. Even the newest one, yes, like we have your own reggaeton music, yes, that decided to make covers or new versions of uh, reggae songs or rap songs that actually had its origin in the past, right? So I'm telling you all this because basically we have this desire over here is not the first time that happens in the Renaissance. Of course, it happened most likely many times before, but let's say that starting from the name and having this new this desire to return to better times, they have something new. Yes, so it's like taking something that was from the past and maybe inspiring that and trying to add a little new. So we have this mix of identities that normally are obtained when we combine something from the past with something from the present or something new or a little bit different with a new angle or different trend or something like that. Okay, so there are different things here that we can discuss. First of all, that this is different from the first Renaissance, the European Renaissance that we normally know about Da Vinci or Botticelli, the one that happened in Italy, in Florence. This happened in the 14th century, more or less. But remember that we're talking about a relatively isolated region in which not necessarily everything comes at a time and comes first. So normally we are going to see that the most important cultural movements are going to happen first in Europe and then go to England or the United Kingdom as we know it today, the British Islands, and eventually, and studying the next period, we are going to start talking about America, right? Until this period, we are not yet interested in America. Because it was not discovered yet, right? Not officially. So first of all, make that differentiation between the European Renaissance and this Renaissance of the 16th century, like it was about 200 years after, give or take. Also, that this was referred to. Also, the English Renaissance was also referred as the Elizabethan era. Or the age of Shakespeare, because here actually we are going to get to know Shakespeare. That is going to be a really important part of the period. That's something that we need to know. Also take into account the name. Now it receives the name of a woman, which is a big change. Women were mostly ignored or just used in the previous periods. So that may be something important, right? Something good for us to take into account. Now, another important fact is that this is like the first time that vocabulary or the linguistic input in this period, for the first time, is going to be deliberate borrowings. Yes, it's going to be voluntary adoptions. They are not the result of an invasion, as if they were in the Anglo-Saxon period and in the Middle English period, right? There were invasions or conquerings. Now, this time, let's say that there was a relatively stable government system that was not invaded by any barbarian or military force. Let's say not massively. Of course, there were wars. That's going to be like during the whole different periods. There will be wars at some point. But well, that's for the first time voluntary adoptions. That when you do things because you want to, well, they are going to have different implications, right? Well, something that was really important before getting into more details of the period is this, guys, and it's if in the previous period God was the center of the universe, well, in this period we are going to have that men, humankind, is the center of the universe, right? Now, think about this. This is a Dora moment, right? What are some advantages of believing in God? I am going to ask you to remove any personal belief, try to be objective. Even if you believe or not, if you have a religion, this or the other, if you're an atheist or whatever, try to think about some advantages of believing in God, right? Try to come up with some ideas. And well, actually, believing in God, I am not discussing if it is true or not, if it is an invention or whatever, but believing in God has a lot of different advantages, right? So, first of all, you have some hope for the future, right? You're living your life with the purpose of achieving something, and depending on your religion, that something can be heaven or resurrection or finding enlightenment or something like that. Let's think about Catholic religion or let's say Jewish Christian principles that were the ones that were mostly imposed in the Middle Ages. And sure, you will have this reward of heaven. Yes, so no matter you were doing, if your life was difficult, somehow you have this hope of okay, I am suffering here, but maybe I'm going to have something better to achieve in the future, in my afterlife, call it wherever you want. Then, if by any chance you thought that your life was really difficult, or somebody died, or you had a really bad trouble or something like that, normally you had the idea that that was God's plan, yes, and that it was okay. So if it's part of a superior being, of a superior entity plan, well, it means that probably in the future I'm going to be better, or I'm suffering because of a reason, yes. If my young kid died, well, it's really sad and everything, but most likely I'm going to have something you know, good coming out from that, because God cannot think in an evil way. Like, all of that suffering must have some sort of meaning. Also, it also worked. I mean, religion and let's say belief worked as a moral compass. Of course, we had laws and regulations and things like that, but normally, under normal conditions, let's say that religions have a set of rules that usually, not all the times, but usually helps you get along better with other people. Yes, so religion normally tells you not to kill, not to steal, not to engage on things that are or behaviors. I mean, that are going to create a discomfort with your neighbor, and well, all these different things, right? So this code of conduct we have to accept that is morally okay, even though if you do it because of I don't know, fear of a punishment or something like that, or fear of hell or anything like that. Well, in a way, they work, and especially in middle, the Middle Ages. Well, people were normally really afraid of acting badly because, well, the consequences were usually not very good, right? So we have those different things, yes, organization, somehow meeting with other people to go to religions events or meetings. Let's say that we have all these different things that have positive aspects or that have positive consequences. Now, let me ask you this question again. What are some disadvantages of, let's say, not believing in God? Yes? Think about that. Because, hold it for a second in there, right? Because now we're going to think about the advantages of not believing in God. Yes? So, the opposite to that. What could they be? Well, again, let me mention a couple. You over there can think about other ones. You can think freely, sure. Somehow, if you don't have the presence of an omnipotent entity in your life, basically you're going to depend on yourself, and you're going to try to solve your problems yourself, right? Let's say you're not going to require any external assistance, so definitely when you are somehow dependent entirely on yourself, you are going to move. Yes, you are going to create things. So, not believing in God at some point boosted a lot of different things. If you didn't have God to explain the rain, or disease, or death, or any natural phenomena, you wondered. You started like, okay, how is that? So that is why science boosted with the somehow absence of religion, or let's say not complete absence, but with a different perspective from religion. So without religion, at least at the time, it was easier, or at least there was this constant apparition of theories and science and different things related to it. Well, nowadays that is not completely incompatible. Now you can be a religious person and a scientific person. Nevertheless, it was very noticeable at the time. Let's say that you, without this, let's say, moral restraint, you are going to have the possibility of explore different things in your life. Yes, there was a high amount of restraint into, for example, sexual trends. Yes, in Middle English, and because of religious reasons, sex was, of course, supposed to be completely heterosexual, right? Of course, we know that homosexuality has existed for a long time in two different ways, but of course, they required to do it in a hidden way, and if they were discovered, well, it was really bad, right? Well, let's say that in terms of sexuality, it was possible to explore without religion better things in terms of pure pleasure, yes, in terms of non-procreative sexuality. Also, the natural trends of people, or the natural inclinations towards sexuality, towards polygamy, towards a lot of different things, which are not necessarily good per se, but at least they somehow, if you can develop your personality without any restraint, that's a positive thing, I think, right? So we have these. We have, as I mentioned, the boosting of science. We have the possibility of creating, the possibility of also a third aspect really important, change your topics or your themes. No, like everything that you were supposed to be doing in Middle English was for the glory of God. So anything related to literature, to architecture, to sculpture, to painting was mostly focusing to that, right? Into praising God. So somehow, if you are a little bit far away from that, is it possible that the topics, the themes are a little bit more varied, so you have a wider range of alternatives for it, right? So those are like the benefits, right, of believing in God, of not believing in God. I'm sorry. Now, what about the negativity of those aspects, right? I asked you a moment ago about the negative aspects of believing in God, and well, let's say that especially in university, when many people is atheist or pretends to be, Probably you have listened a couple of, a ton of different arguments about that. So that religion doesn't allow you to think, that religion makes you some sort of a brainless robot, that religion restrains your personality, that religion um, it's a tool of oppression for power. No, like that really happened. Like let's say the government and religion got together, and it was possible to control people for their purposes much better. That religion, let's say, had a monetary interest, right? So I don't think I don't need to tell you a lot about that. You have your own ideas, and you have listened to them, even if you don't agree with them, and many of them are undeniable, right? But then let's talk about the disadvantages of not believing in God, the disadvantages of being an atheist. Not many people talks about that a lot, no? Especially on our uh, environment in which like everything is so scientific and somehow related with finding evidence and different things. Well, it also has a lot of disadvantages, right? And there, those things that are apparently positive uh, become at some point also potentially negative. So I was mentioning that an advantage of of not believing in God or a God was that nobody had a plan for you. Sure, so you can do it on your own. Well, that is also a disadvantage. Let's say that people on the Middle English period had everything figured out, and if anything happened, they say, "Oh, because of God," and that's it, and I continued with my life. Well, in this period, people started reflecting. Okay, there's not a God, that doesn't exist. Is it a figment of my imagination? So why am I here? What is my purpose? Yes, is it okay to suffer a lot? Is it okay to suffer the vicissitudes of life? What is the purpose if I am not going anywhere? Yes, if there's nothing after death, if there is not a prize to win or a punishment to receive, if it doesn't matter if I am a great person because I'm going to die and worms are going to eat me, but if I am a terrible person and a killer and a rapist and whatever, basically I'm going to share the same destination. Yes, because no matter if you're good or bad, you're going to end up the same. So what's the point? Yes, what's my relevance in the great scale of things? I am nobody. Yes, I am nothing. I am a speck of dust floating through the universe, and no matter what I do, yes, no matter if I get a 1 or a 5 in literature, and no matter if I am graduated, and no matter if I have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or not, if I get married or I have children or not, no matter if I become a millionaire or if I'm going to remain poor forever, no matter even if I get a Nobel Prize for whatever I do and I became a really famous person, none of that matter because eventually I'm going to die and people will forget me. In 1 year or 1 millennium, but in the end nobody will forget, nobody will remember me, right? So as you can see, this calculation, this thinking and reflection of my place in the universe, of my purpose in the universe, created anguish, created this constant wondering, constant questioning about the nature and the purpose of the human being, of existence, of our actions, of everything else, right? And this, as I mentioned, constant wondering was not necessarily comfortable. Well, some people started wondering and found some reasons, but most of the people in Renaissance were constantly wondering and finding like no response, right? So that is something important that you have to take into account for this period, no? The center of the universe in Renaissance was the man, right? But we're imperfect, fallible creatures, full of doubts, with more doubts than certainties. And that makes that our universe is, of course, doubtful and full of uncertainty and depressing and anguishing sometimes, and with these mixtures of feelings and ideas that are not necessarily comfortable. No, because let's say that ignorance is comfortable, but when you start learning things, you become anguished. Yes, because you are more aware of your surroundings and your nature and your purpose and your possibilities and the nature of your future, right? So it's important to have that. So I know it's a long introduction to the topic. We have not even talked anything yet about the topics or the themes or anything else, but I consider it was necessary, right? Because it's important that you take this into account, and especially take into account how different is the spirit from the previous, like a complete opposition. Yeah. All God in the previous period, no God, only man in this one, which was important. Okay, so hopefully that was clear and highlighted enough. In the next video, I will be talking about some linguistic features, some different things that we can talk about in terms of language influence, themes, authors, etc. This period is going to be, let's say, a little bit longer than the other ones in terms of what I can share with you, because it has different components. Okay, but do not worry, we're going to be going little by little, and hopefully everything is clear enough. Okay, so thanks a lot, and see you in the next video. Hugs.